الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا.
Assalamu alaikum. Today, we are diving into a topic that affects many families in our community, which is navigating marriage expectations and managing post-divorce relationship, especially when children are involved. Now, picture this. A couple marries with hopes and dreams rooted in the cultural and religious expectations. Yet, despite their best effort, the marriage ends. Divorce is not just an end, but a beginning of a new kind of relationship, especially when children are involved. So what comes next for them and their children? How do they navigate the complex terrain of co-parenting while staying true to their cultural and Islamic expectations and values, of course? So joining us today is a mindset coach who specializes in these very issues. So together, inshallah, we will be exploring the challenges and the strategies for building a harmonious pre-marriage and post-divorce relationship. So let's get straight into it. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Nusrat.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
And thank you for
Thank you
joining us.
for having me.
It's really good to have you. Really, I appreciate you. So, would like to get to know you. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do with regards to the topic we're discussing today?
So my name is Nusrat Mohamed. I am from Mombasa, Kenya. I am a mother of four. I'm a wife, and I'm also a mindset coach. I actually am a counseling psychologist, and I did my specialization in couples and family therapy. But I prefer doing mindset coaching because I feel like it has a lot more impact than just therapy on its own. So I tend to combine therapy and the coaching together because they say therapy is dealing with the past issues, but coaching is dealing with now and the present and the future. So I love combining the two. Yes, and with regards to marital issues, premarital issues, I tend to get a lot more clients that are struggling in those areas, and simply because we tend to take in more of our cultural practices over religious values and practices.
Good, good. And now, Sister Nusra, say I am planning to get married, and of course I'm married with children, but hypothetically, I'm planning to get married. How do I distinguish between something that is gold plated that's actually gold itself? I saw that on your TikTok, so I thought it's a good way to start.
Okay, let me clarify. You are married and you want to get married again, or the younger version of you that wants to get married?
The younger version of me that's just looking to start a family life, that's just not messing it now, just starting out, wanting to be a husband for the first time.
Yeah. First, before looking for what's gold and gold plated, I'd ask you to do your own self-awareness and find out if you yourself are either gold or gold plated, because we tend to always we want to get into relationships thinking that we ourselves are perfect, and are looking for someone else that's also perfect to complement our perfectness. And in reality is all of us I guess we have our good and our bad, or our character limitations, and all that. And the first essence when you do want to get married is self-awareness, like going back and thinking that, fine, I want to find a good wife. I want to find the perfect woman for myself. But am I the perfect man out there for that perfect woman that I'm looking for to complement myself? So I would say divulge into that first. Find out how is your team, how is your akhlaq, how are your family, Are you a polygamous man? Do you see yourself being a polygamous man? And from the onset, because when you're looking for a woman, you're looking for a woman who would accept polygamy. What kind of virtue you're looking for? If you're looking for a woman with deen, what level of deen? Let's say you are an average Muslim. You don't really go beyond being overly religious and following it to the path. And you want somebody that is, you say, no, I'm average, but I want somebody that is better than me in deen so that they can pull me to be at the same level as them. Or are you going to look at somebody that is in the same level as you of deen and say, you know what, I may not be able to get to that level. So I might get a woman whose deen is up here and I'm here and aspire to be where she is, but maybe I may not make it. But if I find a woman that we are on the same wavelength and we can grow together into, then you need to find somebody who also wants to grow in their deen. Most often when people are looking for a spouse like yourself, you look at, is she making money? Because every young man out there today says, life is tough. I need a woman who can bring money as well, who can help me financially as well. And then when you ask the young man, how does that play into the marriage now? Because if you're both breadwinners, then the roles need to be rediscussed all over again. So it is, I always say that when you're looking for a person, it is a tailor-made experience. It is not a one-size-fits-all. So you really have to sit down, look at yourself, who you really are in reality and in truth. And especially in our cultural setup, a man would say, the family would say, Muhammad, you know, this is how you are. Let us get married. Let us get you married to the best woman out there. And she will shape you. She will change you. She will make you better. But why not already be better, Muhammad, for that lady that is also better at the same level as you?
Good, good. Now, I know what I want as a prospective husband. Should I be looking for a compliment? Like you said, like depending on what exactly should, I know myself. I know everything you've mentioned about me knowing myself. So how should that guide me looking for the better half in terms of, my expectation of my potential spouse? Like, should I be looking for someone who's going to complement what I am short of? Or should I be looking for someone who exactly the same as me? Like, you're also average as me, or you are like better, you're as good as me? Should I be looking for a direct, reflection of myself, or should I be looking for someone who complements me as a potential husband? What should I be looking for in that woman?
That will ultimately depend on what you want your marriage to look like. Because if you are aspiring to be better and you're looking for a woman to be better in terms of deen or in terms of akhlaq, or even in terms of what, you're like, we've always been an average earning family. We've always never amounted to anything. I want to be one of those rich men. I want to have a family that moves from a sense of poverty or middle class to a sense of richness. So we still go back to the same criteria the Prophet gave us. What are you looking for? Are you looking for akhlaq? A family that is well known for their good behavior, that family, mashallah, are you looking for that? Are you looking for nobility in that case? Or are you looking for a family that is wealthy? Or are you looking for a family that is prestigious? What exactly are you looking for? Um, and it is, as much as you would want somebody to complain, to be above you, the whole question would be, again, are you as Muhammad able to actually, are you willing or are you able to actually grow to reach that person's level? If my deen is higher than yours and you want to marry me, and you say, no, Nusrat, I want to be as good as Nusrat. So I want to marry Nusrat so that when I have my kids, they have a good mother that has that level of iman, that level of akhlaq, and they should aspire to be that. But if you, Muhammad, do not change, you only aspire in your mind to change. But when you actually get into that marriage, you don't change. You actually are, it's like you're rotting an apple, like a beautiful apple, and you've now gone into it and you're rotting it. So that's where when you started this conversation, say, what happens? Like there are rifts when people get married. This is the exact rift. You went into a very high expectation of yourself, only for yourself not to be able to reach that high expectation. Now, two things happen. You're either going to affect your wife's iman, she drops to the same level as you are, or you're going to overly frustrate her for her now to not want to be married to a man who is pulling her down. instead of growing and reaching to the level she is, so that they can ascend to even higher level of iman in akhlaq. You see, so that's where the dilemma comes in. People are not honest with themselves. I can tell you, I can be honest and say, you know what, you want to marry me, but my iman, sometimes I pray the 5 times prayers. But sometimes, especially when I'm just done with my menstruation period, it takes me longer to get back into the rhythm of me praying 5 times. That is me being honest. But if you just already asked me, do you pray 5 times? Yeah, I pray 5 times. And then you marry me, and I don't pray those 5 times. Sometimes it takes me a whole month. And the next period before I actually now start clicking and be like, oh my God, I need to pray, I need to pray, I need to pray. And then I get into that rhythm. Will you be happy with that? So same goes for the man. Is your job so demanding that you're unable to meet the 5 times prayers? When you're at home, you don't wake up for Fajr, your wife wakes up for Fajr, you don't pray the Sunnah, or don't fast the Sunnah, fasting. You know, all those things she loves doing, now you'll be impacting her negatively because you will be trying to push her iman down instead of lifting it. And in that regard, you'll also be affecting any offsprings that you're going to have. You're a bad example.
Okay, but do you think people change in marriage? Do you think marriage change people? Like, what exactly? You talk about if you're not willing to change and then you go into the marriage. Like, do you really think people change? Or, like, is it possible for people to change? Like, the common, you know, quote or quote unquote, like people say that you can't change a man, you can't change a woman. That's what we hear. Is it possible for people to change in marriage? Say, okay, we get it all wrong, and then we are in this marriage, and I like this marriage, and I want it, but look, we're not kind of matching up in terms of expectations. So, can we really change? Is it possible?
You are right when you say, can I change you? I can't. Can you change me? You can't. Change comes from within. I have to want that change. You can't force it on me. I mean, it's not even, let's leave alone marriage. You can't force your children to change. They may, because they're under your roof and under your guardianship, and you're forcing them as a parent, they'll pray 5 times, they'll read that Quran, they will follow it to the path. But it's not because they want to, it's because they're following your routine. It's not because they like it. It's because you want it and they have no option. They're under you. They're helpless. They have to follow you. But once they're done, once they are older, they're no longer under your control, it's when now you see the threat. It's now they choose the path they want to choose. So yeah, change comes from within. Wanting to be somebody better, wanting to be somebody worse is up to you yourself. So marriage, does it change people? Of course it changes. Do people change in marriages? Yes, both are correct. I mean, that's what in mindset coaching, it's exactly that. You can change. You can reprogram your mind to think differently. You can program your mind to do the things you want it to do, you know. And it is a possibility. So let's talk about change. So when we talk about change, and I say, if you want to change, only then you can change, what does that mean? Like I said, when you enter a marriage and you aspire to be one thing and you don't meet that aspiration that you wanted for yourself, that is when the problems begin. Or you have this idea or an expectations of how a woman should be in that marriage, or expectations of yourself and the role you're going to play in that marriage. And you enter and it is not how you perceived it to be. And then it becomes frustrating, you become angry, you become disappointed, and you start dreaming of another life other than what you have, looking at it as a mistake. It happens to both men and women. And ultimately, don't have expectations. That's the whole point. Why are you expecting? If you are two humans, tangible, you can see each other, you can talk to each other, why not like talk and get it out there? That is why premarital counseling is so vital, because everyone enters a marriage with a certain assumption, with a certain expectation. I have my own thoughts and expectations of what this marriage could be. You have your thoughts and expectations, and we enter into that marriage. And I find out when my expectation and assumptions are not it. Your expectations and assumptions are not that either. What happens then? So if we tackle this beforehand, and this is I'm going to say something that in this modern day, Muslim men are really in denial. They tend to say, our mothers, our grandmothers stayed in marriages for so long. Yes, they did. They had no options. We do. Leave alone us, the millennials. The Gen Z, they have double the the opportunities and they can walk out of marriages so fast. It is both a blessing and a curse. Because at what point now do we say I can walk out of a marriage, it's valid, or I'm just being petty and I need to work out on those issues? The fact that it's been easy for women to walk out of marriages is not something we're proud of or something that we're happy about. It is sad, and it takes somebody's really mental capacity to think and weigh on the options and say, have I really worked on this marriage with my husband? Am I really doing the right thing? Should I really walk out? Should I really stay? Have I given it much thought? We don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, the older generations in our families have now also enabled it. Because women in the past have suffered a lot in marriages, it has given them a ticket to be now, oh, you're suffering, leave. You're suffering, you're leave. Just leave. You don't have to stay. Even the fathers encourage it. I mean, you're being unfair to my daughter. Work out. I can feed my daughter, can take care of my daughter. But the denial is that women now have options. Our grandmothers, our mothers didn't have those options. Walk out and go where? I mean, we are both from African ethnic backgrounds, and I'm here. I'm in Africa, actually, and I've lived my whole life here. And let me tell you, before, people could not walk out of marriages. You walk out of marriages and you're told, go back. Go back. Because one, it is a shame to walk out of a marriage. It's a shame for that family that their daughter walked out of that marriage. Secondly, what will she come to and do? She's left her husband. She's coming back not just alone. And this is a cultural thing. The woman walks out with her 10 kids and comes back to her father's household. And sometimes the father has died. That means there's a burden on either the mother or the uncles. And so it is also economically not fair that during those days to bring back that wealth into the family back again. So they're told, go back and raise your children and go back and stay with your husband. There was nothing like they could. And then being a patriarchal society, it mostly favored men. And I say this when people say I've never been labeled as a feminist. I've never been labeled as that. But I always say I love patriarchy. Islam is based on patriarchal system. It is a beautiful system. But if it is adhered to, if it is followed to the T, it's a very positive, beautiful patriarchal system that protects women more than it protects even men. Men are put in those leadership positions to protect women, to protect children. And it isn't followed. And that is why we say our systems, cultural systems, are toxic patriarchal because they favor the man regardless of the oppression done to women and to children in their families. So yes, men tend to forget that now women have the ability to walk free from marriages. Hence, the need to take in a woman when you want to get married, to sit down with that woman and come to the agreement on how you want that marriage to be. If you want your wife to work so that they can support your income as well, how do you still remain the head of the family, a respected head of the family, even though your wife is putting in percent there? How do you remain, how does that financial help that you get still not interfere with the intimacy you get from your woman, or the motherhood that she has to play in the role with her children? And in that sense, in this day and age, we've stopped now women being told, oh, you have to take care of the kids 100%, go to work as well, do this, do that, and then as well, be beautiful enough to give me intimacy, the bed, and look pretty and do all that. And women are saying no to that. They're saying no. So go back before you get married, Mohammed, sit down with that. Know what potential marriage you want to get into. What are the roles you want to play? What your future woman's role you want them to play as well. And be realistic about it, because it's not the 1900s. Women are not just going to accept to just absorb everything. Like, I'm going to be the mother, I'm going to be the wife, I'm going to be a worker, I'm going to be a provider, but I will be submissive 100% and let you take control of everything. So women are saying no to.
Okay, and rightfully so, I guess. But then, so that kind of brings me to my next question. So now, in the past, there was nothing like premarital counseling, people going because of what they feel, and then they don't have a choice to kind of exit because of the orientation we have as Africans. Now, we got in we didn't have this conversation, and then maybe some lies or maybe hype. I don't want to say lies, maybe some hypes around what I'm going to give you, what the marriage should look like, how we're going to love each other and everything. And we go into the marriage, and then things didn't kind of pan out the way we kind of emphasized during the talking stage. How do we, what would you advise in terms of communication strategies in handling the disappointment in marriages? Like, this is not what we discussed. This is not what we talked about. This is not who I got married to. This is not the way you used to be before, we became an item. How do we have that conversation to remedy whatever it is we've had left, so that we, just to prevent, us walking out of a marriage? What are strategies of communication you would advise for couples that are going through disappointment in marriage? Like, men are disappointed in their wives, and wives are disappointed in their husbands. Like, do we have to just walk out when we see what we don't like, or can we still talk about it? If we can talk about it, what are the strategies you would advise as a professional?
Communication is very important between two people, and everyone has a different way of communicating. There's some of us who talk everything out. There are those who keep it in. There are those who can write. I mean, I have clients that they say, all the words are in my head when I want to tell him, but I can't. They don't come out when I'm talking to him. And I say, have you written to him? Write to him. Send him an email. Send him that long text. Tell him, but explain and say, when I try and talk in front of you, I feel like I panic or I get anxiety and I can't talk. This is the kind of person I am, but I can write. So I'm going to write to you. And whatever you feel comfortable, you can talk to me, but I will write back, because I can't talk and I tend to forget my points, or I forget how I want to answer. Some people in the heat of the moment, and I'll give myself as an example. Being in psychology is both, it can be quite a curse in a way, because then I have read my spouse and I know all his weak points. So if I'm overly angry, I can really go for his jugular vein and like really say the most hurtful of things, just so he feels how I feel in that moment, you know. Of course, I regret it later, but then I also learned that the tongue is worse. You'd rather trip on your leg than trip on your tongue. Words are never forgotten.
Sorry to interrupt you, Sister Nusrat. When you do those things, do you apologize, or do you explain yourself afterwards? Do you say, I'm sorry for what I did, or do you explain yourself out of the situation?
No, I do. I apologize. But let me tell you something about apologies. They become too much if they become repetitive. If you're repeating the abuse and saying sorry later, the story becomes meaningless. The apologies become meaningless eventually. You cannot keep repeating a certain action, knowing very well that action is hurtful to the other person, and thinking that, oh, I'm just going to apologize later. We used to do that when we were teenagers. We'd go on dates and then come back home and do our prayers and sisters. Allah, make it home alive so that I can repent on this, you know? We're not teenagers anymore, though. You know, that's being teenagers. As grown-ups, I feel like we have the responsibility to our spouses to view them as human. And this is why I tell people, look at the other person as a human being. We fight with our parents. I mean, I was in my mother's womb for 9 months. I mean, she took care of me, and I still would disagree with her. Still have our fights. What about this total stranger? Do you expect never to ever have conflict? I mean, I can stay in the same roof with my sister. We can coexist in distances, because when we are together, we always clash, you know, like two different heads. But she's my sister. I love her. And I understand there's that conflict of character. We can't coexist in certain ways. And we put those boundaries and respect each other. Why do people expect with spouses it's any different? This expectation of perfectness is what ruins marriages sometimes. You expect too much from the other person, that is perfection, which is only God is perfect. No one else is. We're not. So why expect perfection from the other person? Expect the other person has shortcomings. Expect that this marriage will be rocky. But as long as fidelity is upheld, respect is upheld no matter what, within conflict, within normal day-to-day stuff, and also that communication is upheld. And going back to the drawing board once in a while is so important. So respect is a means of communication. Like no matter what happens between the two of us, I'm still going to respect you and expect respect to be reciprocated as well. Expect fidelity to be there. Just because we're having issues, it doesn't mean you start looking sideways because me and you are having issues. Expect, especially now with social media, a lot of spouses come to me and say, he's been emotionally connecting with someone else online. He's been dating somebody else online. She's been doing this with another man online. And the one who's now in premarital counseling is social media. I mean, we have to discuss that. What are your feelings on social media? How is her social media? How is your social media? When you get married, what are the expectations? How do you handle DMs? You know, like I am married. I keep saying I'm married. I have 4 kids, and I still get 101 DMs. How do I hold myself accountable as somebody's wife in social media? I use it for work. I use it just for my own pleasure and laugh and look for clothes or whatever. But then how do I uphold myself respectfully? Because not even knowing that I have a spouse at home, but also myself for my own self-respect. So those are the things people need to connect and talk about within the marriage. Human beings are ever evolving. So the two of you in that marriage are evolving as individuals, and you have to constantly connect and communicate so that you can evolve together as couples, as spouses. And the thing is, I tell couples, don't lose your individuality. Just because Muhammad is married to me, it doesn't turn to be another handbag. I'm like this. You know, Muhammad I have to leave Muhammad to also be an individual, have his own hobbies, have his own interests. And that stays the mystery of that marriage, because Muhammad always has something that he can come back and share with me. And I always have something I can go back and share with Muhammad. Men tend to sometimes say, I want to marry a very literate girl. I want to marry somebody that, you know, will not disturb me, will not be too much no and come and, disturb my mind. 2 years down the line, I can't even discuss anything with this woman. I can't discuss my work. I can't discuss my troubles. I can't discuss finances in the home. Like, she can't even help me in any capacity. That's when you emotionally go and find a Nusrat online, say hi, or we meet, our emotions. And that is sinful. It's still sinful connecting to someone else on that emotional level. And you neglect your woman at home or neglect your man at home. So communication is essential. Arguments are essential. We will argue and argue, accept those arguments because they are debates. As long as they remain respectful, they remain within boundaries, and it's exchange of opinions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree. As long as it has nothing to do with going outside the boundaries of deen, we are allowed to disagree. And couples need to embrace that. It is normal to argue. You argue with your mom and your dad. What do you expect to argue with Muhammad you just married? Of course you're going to argue with them. So argue it out, but remain respectful. And understand that arguments doesn't mean you don't care for each other anymore, or you don't respect each other anymore. As long as I'm not raising your voice to you, I'm not being rude to you, I'm not being condescending to you, Muhammad is not being egoistic to me, and all that. So it is very important. Arguments are part of communication. Respect is part of communication. Fidelity is saying that no matter what happens between us, it's communication, that I am going to remain faithful to you, And another part of communication is, I say, going back to the drawing board. Fine, we're married. 3 months, 6 months down the line, let's sit down and discuss again. Where are we at? How are you feeling in this marriage? Are you all right? Did I meet the expectations? Doing anything wrong? Then again, and again, don't be too condescending. Don't be too, oh, it's your fault. Don't be overly negative. Sometimes couples come in and they're so negative. And I ask, there's nothing good about this person. Like, not one thing that was done that was good to you. I'm like, oh yeah, there was this. I'm like, why is it that the first instance is negativity? Why don't you also appreciate the positives, as well? Because however way you treat each other as couples, it's preparing you to be parents as well. and how you treat each other, it'll be a reflection on how you would treat your kids and how your kids will now reciprocate that same treatment as well.
Yeah, that's very comprehensive. Thank you very much. I'm thinking as you're speaking, it's all very easy, well, so to speak. And I know you would have experienced that in your practice. Like you can tell them everything that is good that needs to be done, that needs to be practiced. But the dynamics of individual families is very different. What if the husband is a type that is very, very like egoistical, like, typical African man, that will not agree that he is at fault. And the woman is the type that will always remind you of the mistake you also made. And that's why she's also making this mistake. So how do you rectify that? How do you deal with that kind of situation?
It's difficult when both are hard-headed, but if I can find one of them that's fit, that's the one that is softer between the two of them, I deal with the one that is the softer one. And the thing that I do is I ask them about the pros and the cons. What outweighs the other? What are the pros of remaining with this? He's egoistic, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, we will not, therapy or premarital counseling is not for you to come out the perfect spouse. It's just for you to figure out ways what can be compromised, cannot be compromised, what can be created boundaries, what can be left on its own, and then this spouse, this is how you're going to deal with him if he's like this. This is how you're going to deal with her when she's like this, and leave it at that. Because even the marriages, the happy marriages, not happy because they're perfect. They're happy because they've learned the hikmah of how to deal with each other.
So
it's not a yeah.
Yes, I totally get that. So now we've been to your office several times, back and forth. You give us the doses, we've taken it. Maybe one party didn't take the dose as he or she's supposed to take it. But then, at what stage, as a professional, have you ever in your professional life advised a couple to call it quit? At what stage would you recommend that?
No, unless the only time I've ever recommended change was one time. It was due to sexual and physical abuse. And it was the only time I would ever tell somebody to walk out is if there was physical abuse, to the point where I have to call social services or I have to tell them to go to the police. Then definitely there's nothing to be discussed there. But then still, I don't say quits. I say go back to your parents. Discuss it. Go get a police report. Go get checked. Go get the treatment. Go back to your parents. Let's deal with this from that end. I still don't say automatically walk up, leaving. Because then on the other hand, I want to understand where the abuse is coming from as well. The other person is still a human being. Fine, they're wrong. But why are you like this? I want to understand. It's just brutally, you're just an evil person. Okay, khalas. That's who you are. That's what you want to be. But sometimes people have underlying issues. And sometimes it could be psychosis as well. So then I still want to know. My curiosity, I love cats and I'm curious as a cat. I want to find out why this person is the way they are. But definitely the woman has to be safe. And unfortunately, it's not just men. Sometimes it's the women that are abusive as well. I've had a man cry. And funny enough, it's the woman who asked me, I want to bring my husband counseling and tell him, tell him this. I'm like, okay, bring him. And when he comes,
she was telling you what to tell her husband.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And then he comes and he's quiet for the first 2-3 sessions. And from that, I already see that who's the problem here. But I drift on a bit and I say, let me have one-on-one, because even in couple sessions, I still have a one-on-one separately with each. And then at the one-on-one with the man, then the stories start to come out. The abuse is the same. And he shows me these bite marks. He shows me, the buns. And I'm like, okay. And he starts crying. He's saying, this isn't abuse because she's abusing me. She's beating me. She's beating me up. And she was saying he's beating her. And it is true. But in that sense where somebody's biting you and now you have to restrain them. Pull them. They're burning you and you have to push them away. Of course. So if we take it just from her perspective, oh yes, she is really being abused. But now when you combine it with the other picture, then the whole story unfolds. It's like this was on a defensive purposes and not really the one that is on the offensive. So yes, I have done it when it was both physical and rape.
Yeah.
And I've had question asked a lot. How can a husband rape his wife? There's always that the thing that men tend to say, if you refuse sex to your husband, then the angels curse you the whole night till morning. And I always used to wonder before I was married, I said, what if I refused it at lunchtime? Will I be cursed from lunchtime? I know my deen is beautiful. I know my deen is 100% perfect. And if I refuse to have sex with my husband because he just beat me up, and now half an hour he wants to have sex, and I say, no, there are no angels cursing me. If if I am sick and I am ill, or I have a pregnancy that is really troublesome, and I'm supposed to be on bed rest, I'm not supposed to have sex. It's actually a doctor's order, and you force your way. Say, these doctors, these are just modern medicine, or they don't know anything. And if I refuse that because of my health, then I have a right to say no. No, please, I am unwell, or no, this is a risk to my health or to the baby's health. I can't do this. And I say valid reasons, Islamic boundaries. Of course, we are allowed to say no. But then in that, you still force your way with me. It is rape because it is without my consent. Of course, it's going to be painful. And of course, it's not pleasurable to me. It's just pleasurable to you. And it is in all ways very wrong. So I've had cases like that as well. That one time, that case, astaghfirullah, not cases, but one time with that case. And I did tell the woman to walk up. And I said, please pack your bags, go to your parents. And if this is happening for quite a long time, and the man was very egoistic. He did not want, he was narcissistic, egoistic. He didn't even show up for the counsel. He didn't want to know. He refused the kids to get an education as well. He was going to marry off his daughters at 15 years old. So it was a whole case involving social workers and everything. And that was the one. But otherwise, I don't. I let a person guide them, and then they make their own decisions. Eventually, if they say, I want to walk out, then yes. But otherwise, I cannot encourage somebody to walk out.
Okay. Now, we've tried everything. Nothing is working, and divorce seems to be the only option on the table. What do you think is the cause of the bitterness post-divorce? And this is not a case of mercenary, like my husband having a wife and the wife is enjoying what we built together. I'm talking about a case whereby the divorce was not caused by another woman who came into the fold of, things, or who came into the picture, as they say. It's just things not working out based on somebody refuses to change, or based on the fact that we just thought, look, this thing is no longer working. And then either party, could be the husband or could be the wife. Why do people really want to see each other suffer after divorce? Why?
I feel like it has to do with egos. It has to do with the society perceiving that relationship as well. You see, we're such a community society. When you're going through marital issues, your friends are involved, your family is involved, the whole neighborhood is involved. Everyone is involved in it. It's like you're getting divorced, 100 people instead of just 2 people. And then woman has 100 voices on her, the man has another 100 voices on him, and then they get fueled. Fueling is just happening on both sides. And then they get divorced. And when they're going through the divorce, especially if it is such a volatile divorce period where there was no closure of any kind. There was no apologies from anyone. There was no mutual, you know, leaving like, okay, we're done. We're not compatible. Bye. I mean, alhamdulillah, we said, yes, it's not worked out. Bye. No, it's really, really bad. Sometimes it's still love mingled in that hatred. Could be one of them still wants, or both of them still want each other, but they cannot stand each other at the same time, and they hurt each other beyond. And even after the divorce, because no one has had that closure, they all are still letting it out with each other. But also, it is because we were never taught how to deal with divorces. Never. There's never counsel after that. Islamically, you go to the Qadi or whatever, the issue that divorce and bye, masalam. There's no sitting couples down. You have children, yes. How are you going to cope from here on? Okay, forgive each other. If you're not going to forgive each other, how are you going to deal with each other, at least for the sake of those kids? There isn't. It is people navigating the way they want to navigate. It is influence of friends, it is influence of families. And this is why I say, if you choose a good family of akhlaq, and I always put deen and akhlaq together, because you may have deen, and deen, I don't know, in cultural concept is he knows the whole of Quran, he knows the whole Sharia, but he doesn't follow it. Still, you're considered religious. You don't follow it, you just know it. Knowing it and applying it are two different things. So, but this is a family that knows the deen, that applies the deen, and applying the deen shows in your akhlaq, in your way of living. And when they do that, if you took a spouse from that family, then things are not going to go the way you're saying they're going, because they would sit you down and they would tell you, okay, you guys, this is how it's ended. It's okay. How do we move forward? Yes. But if you come from a wretched family, the both of you, one of you, drama continuously, there's no fear of a line there, or fear of, how these two have kids, how are these kids going to be affected? None of that. It's just pure adult egos running the show and creating mayhem. I mean, my first marriage, it didn't end so well. It was very volatile. It was volatile for both of us. And when it ended, it was about 6 months of, you take that, I take that. Like, I say this, he said that. He said, and then my mother said, this is going to go on until when? You two are being very selfish. You have these two girls that you had together, and they need parents. You may not be lovers, you may not be husband and wife, but you're still parents until these two kids die. The two of you are their parents, and you two need to step up. And so if he's not doing it, you need to do it, and you need to bring him in. If you need to apologize, apologize. And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. He said, you both did wrong, both of you. Just apologize so that you can bring him back as a mother, and you're able to compromise and take care of the kids. And that's what he did.
I think that's where we get it wrong, Sister Nusrat. We'll never, hold up to our role in how things turned out. We're always pointing fingers, accepting that we actually played a role in how things turned out. And then that way, anyone who tried to make us see our part in the whole movie, so to speak, becomes our enemy. And what I have seen in our community is that it's not just the children that suffers. The values, the Islamic values, the religion also suffers. Like, the household completely becomes an opposite of what it used to be. Maybe the mother stops praying, the kids stop coming to the madrasa, they completely stop being a Muslim, and then they see you on the road. These are kids that would see you and smile. They're now looking, sideways. Like, the whole thing just go downward after a divorce. And I'm like, who exactly are you guys worshiping before? Are you worshiping each other, or were you worshiping Allah? So what do you think causes that distance from religion post-divorce? Like, is it because there is no taqwa? Is it because, or there is no ikhlas, like no sincerity of purpose? Like, you had issues with your husband. How does that concern Allah and Islam? Like, like, what do you think?
I think okay, I'm not going to talk about this in the psychology as I'm just going to talk about it in the human perspective. Like, you feel like your iman does take a hit when that happens. And sometimes it can be purposefully because you kind of blame God for it. You say, like, why did this happen to me? Why did Allah this happen to me? And it is kind of a period where now you fight with Allah directly before introducing that into your life. So you shift the blame from yourself and you shift from taking accountability uh, for what happened as a human being. You shift it. This happened because God made it happen and not because of my own actions or my own choices and all that. It is easy to blame God than to blame yourself because then you'd have to hold yourself accountable. Then you'd have to accept that you disappointed yourself and you did all the wrong steps that led to this. It is easier to say Allah did this. And so your iman shifts. And sometimes, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Doctor, one second. Sorry. Yeah, so it is easier to do that. I mean, when I got divorced, I did the same thing. Not that I stopped my kid, but myself. And find myself there, unsolicited advice, and tell you, oh, the masjid, don't take them to the masjid. Show him. What can he do? You know, the kids are yours. Show him everything that probably was something as a spouse he wanted you to do. You are now pissing him off, sorry, and
Mm,
doing quite the opposite
mm,
of he wanted because you want to make him upset because he's made you upset. And it's now a tug of war game on whether like he's going to do this to annoy her, she's going to do that to annoy him. He's trying to get married as fast as possible to show her that he's moved on, wasn't picked a worse person than the one he's left because no one has gone through their processes and healed and moved on when the time is required. It's all
mm.
egos and mindfulness and lack of deen again. Like you don't want to go instead of running away from the deen, you'd rather cry on the prayer mat and head those tahajjud and do that, which eventually I did, but I had to spend maybe another whole year before I go back to my rhythm again
Yeah.
to my command. If I didn't have supportive mom as well,
Mm,
then probably I would have not gotten that insight. I always say the best gift and the best blessing Allah can give is hidayah,
mm,
is insight to know, to get into that right path. We always say we want to be on the Sirat al-Mustaqim.
mm,
But if he doesn't give you that insight, he doesn't give you that hidayah to get into that Sirat al-Mustaqim,
mm,
you'll remain on Bukm wa la yarji'un. You'll just be there,
mm.
and in this world moving on without having any sort of consciousness of your actions or your choices. So yes, it is a battle of the egos. And for me, I had to go back and tell him, he's like, but you did this to me. Yes, I did. You did that. I said, yes, I did. I am sorry. I apologize. Just hope now we can move on as parents. These kids need us. They're not going to blame your mother or my mother, or they're not going to blame the society. They'll blame me and you. We brought them here. And for some time, we did have a good marriage. We did love each other. I'm not going to say it was all bad. It was good. It was good until it was bad. And that is okay. But let's just move on. And slowly, we got into terms with that. Then we got into rifts of co-parenting because we're still two very different people. We're not compatible. So there are things I had to accept and say, I'm just going to let him do his way. And there's some things he would tell the kids, this is how your mom likes it. And then now the kids stopped butting heads between us because now we think in one voice despite not being married.
Mm.
And when I got again, before I got married again, these are the things I set down my husband to be. And I say, I had this co-parenting with so-and-so. It's never going to stop. My kids don't need a father. They already have a father. My kids will never call you father. but they will give you the respect as the head of the house. They live with you here. Should you not want the kids in this house, let me know. They have their father. The father will always take care, and they can go back and live with their father. You're not mas'ul in any capacity. It is not your responsibility. The income that I am getting, I will contribute so that my kids are taken care of in here, so that you do not have the burden of raising my kids, feeding them, electricity, whatever. I will chip in so that you are not burdened with having my kids here living under you. Should there be any issues, you discuss with me, and I will discuss with my ex-husband, their father, see whether we're in agreement or not. Like in my time, the two of them were parenting without me. Like I didn't give birth. Yeah, decided we're gonna do this. I was the oven, but it's fine. It's okay. I was just the oven. But alhamdulillah, it gets to that point. I cannot say that my husband wasn't jealous or wasn't this or there weren't rifts. There were very many. But as like I said, as long as you deal with it respectfully, and I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm a very, very stubborn, irritating person. Sometimes I have my vices.
Yeah. And I think the thing that needs to be called out is the fact that at some point, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you were stubborn and then you have your vices, but because of the interest of what is at stake, you have to lower your own ego and then accepted, your part in the whole thing to say, yes, I did that. Yes, I did that. But can we look past that for the sake of the kid? Someone had to do that. It doesn't have to be the woman. It doesn't have to be someone had to do that for the sake of the children and for posterity's sake, and then it comes to co-parenting again, then of course there will be jealousy, there will be misunderstanding, but there's so much understanding and maturity in what you say, in that the way you sit with your husband to be at a time to say, look, I'm going to chip in some things when there's need. And the fact that you say they're not going to call you dad or you're not their father, that's a very bold statement. And my experience, or what I would have heard in the community, will be that if you say you love me, you have to love me with the kids, which is okay. Then the responsibility, if you have to take care of them as well. Like they are my responsibility. And if you want me, then you have to want them with me, meaning inclusive the bills and everything. So you have to take all of us. And if the potential husband says, oh no, yeah, that means you don't love me. Like there are situations like that. How do you deal with that? Say, like, you as a man, what advice would you give to that kind of a man? And because you are being emotionally blackmailed now, you don't want to be seen as someone who doesn't love other people's kids. How do you deal with that? I think what do you think?
If me as a woman, I want to be treated according to Islamic values, then I cannot be hypocritical when it does not work in my favor. We're given so much freedom, by the way. If I left my marriage and I said I don't want to be in this marriage anymore, I'm not obligated to take those kids. I leave the kids with their father. If I gave birth today, I said, here, take your package, go with it. I'm allowed to do that. I am not burdened in any capacity. Should I choose to take those kids to live with me, then it is a choice I am making myself, and that is also good. But their father remains their father. And if their father dies, there's an uncle, there's a cousin, there's always a male figure for my children that has to play a part in taking care. That is how Islam is set. There's always a wali for your children from their father's side. It always has to be one. And that is when we get into inheritance and we say there is a reason why men are given more inheritance than the women, because their responsibility outweigh the responsibilities of women in families. That is why if me and my sister do not have, we're just the two of us, we don't have a brother. If my dad died today, then a male figure from his family, his brothers, would have to come in to complete the inheritance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why? Because if I am not married, I have to go back to the responsibility. My responsibility for me goes back to his brothers. If they're all dead, the responsibility goes to his nephews to take care of me. So there's a woman is never left alone in Islam. There's always a man kept in place to take care of them. But we don't follow that. We follow cultures. We only say religion when it suits us. Men will tell you the inheritance to the power, but when it comes to now the responsibility as to why they get all that inheritance or the leadership aspect that comes to it, everyone is like, no, these women these days, they work, they can take care of yourself, they can do this. That protection from the men in the family is not there. And hence, why women these days, because they're left on their own to fend for themselves, would now trap the next available man and say, you have to take care of me and my kids. Because those kids, their own family, their dad's family, are probably not taking care of them, especially widows. Widowers have a lot of problems in the society. Even here, it's not just us. It's the Pakistanis, it's the Indians, it's the Arabs, It's the same thing. If they don't take up that responsibility, the woman is left to now trap the next Muhammad and say, you have to take care of me and my baggage. Because of course, there's no one else taking care of that baggage from her. So she has to trap you to do it. But if the men in those families took up their roles, then Muhammad is not bothering to do so. And also, we have taken as women this independence thing so much. Women come and they have issues and I ask them, were you plucked from a tree? Does your father know these issues? No. Are you from a tree? No. Where did he get you? From my father. So why didn't you go to your father with these issues? Why are you not letting your man deal with your head of the house with the issues you have in your family? Why are you going to talk about it in the saloon or in a palace or whatever? Like as if you're a mongrel cat on the streets. Go back to your father and discuss these issues. So I think this also the modernity of how we now live gets so much into our heads. We're like, I can do it by myself. I can do it. I have 2 kids and I can do it. But it is a burden. We just don't like to say it is. That extra help is necessary. But then I tackle Muhammad of asking my ex-husband to step up and be like, these are your kids. You need to play your part. And I cannot burden the next man that comes into my life. And Muhammad that comes into my life, it is absolute necessary. I cannot tell you need to love my kids as if they're your own. They're not your own. I love them as their own. You can develop a relationship with time with these kids. That's fine. It can be out of respect. That is what is important. There needs to be that respect between the two of you. And that is halas. That is the most important. That is required in Islam. But there are boundaries needed between you and my kids. I mean, that is why even abuse cases these days are a lot. I take a strange man, bring him at home, marry him, and now my girls are his girls as well. That is a modern way of thinking. It's not the Islamic way.
I think what's outstanding in what you've just said, and everything you've said is so valuable, but there's this thing, I don't know if it's coming from African perspective or just coming from a selfish perspective that's just common amongst African, is that when you say a man does not love your kids that you have outside the marriage that you currently have as his own, and then the man is automatically seen as a bad person. Now, why would you not love the kids from the previous marriage? You should love them as your own. And then the man is then put into a situation whereby he has to play along as if he's in a movie, and you can only play for a while, and then the real you will show, and then you get to be, be blamed again. Oh, you've been pretending all along. You didn't really, that kind of a thing. I think, do you think that there is some sort of hypocrisy going on in terms of our knowledge of the deen, only using it when it serves us good, both men and women, and then when it doesn't serve us, we then go to some sort of traditional or cultural, way of dealing with the issue that's a bit kind of, lopsided.
Yeah, we tend to do that a lot. It is a cultural bias. I mean, I think it's more of an African thing because even with the Indians, with the Arabs, I've not seen that. But with Africans, I've seen that a lot with African cultures.
Yeah. There are 2 questions I have before we wrap it. One of the questions is, I have not seen, or I have never seen, maybe, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I have never seen whereby an African community, like in my African community, where the man and the woman co-parent in a very productive way. It's just like the best I've seen is that that's your dad, whatever it is you like. That's after so many years of denial and curses and abuses, and they'll just be like, don't tell me anything that is happening. That just go meet him. Then when you come back, you come back. Like there's no cooperation between the husband and the wife. Like, do you think
Uh-huh.
it can happen with our understanding? Because I have never seen it happen.
I think we need to do a lot of things because co-parenting is not a thing in our cultures. It's never been a thing. It is either the woman lives alone and leaves the kids to be raised by their father or father's family, and they only come and visit. So that's not co-parenting.
Mm, mm,
They stay or we take them once in a while, and it's coordinated usually by the families. It's not even them dealing with each other directly. It's usually coordinated with this grandmother and that grandmother or the grandfather here and whatever. It's never directly dealt. So we've never learned what co-parenting is or how it should be done, other than watching Western movies and seeing how it is done and the dramas that come with it. And I say there's a very big difference between African cultures and Black American culture. It's two very different cultures. They're not the same just because we may look the same in terms of skin colors and, and all that and features and everything. But culture-wise, we're so far apart. We're not the same. I'd feel like the Black American culture is far worse than our African cultures. But because we don't have the co-parenting factor, we tend to emulate the Black American culture of co-parenting, which of course doesn't work well with us because our cultures are very different compared to them. So we always fail at it. So we need to learn, just like how we never had mental health issues. We never knew what mental health is. We're learning now what mental health is. So I feel like we need more Islamic forums and saying, if things don't work out, this is how you can parent. If it is situation A, if it is situation B, situation C, we need to make people aware of the feelings they're feeling. And I always say there's no bad feeling. There's no wrong perspective. My perspective is right because this is how I'm viewing the world. And your perspective is right because that's how you're seeing it. It can never be wrong. It's your perspective.
mm.
And so it's the same with this. We need to tell people these are the perceptions you have, but this is how it should be. So we need to teach our African communities the concept of healthy co-parenting and that it is not wrong and how to do it in a healthy manner and how to do it respectfully and how to value parenthood and those children. I mean, I don't know, whether we live in Europe or in Africa, we still think as long as I've given my child food, they're going to school, they have somewhere to sleep, I've parented perfectly, I'm fine. There's nothing like emotional parenting. What is emotional damage and what nonsense is that?
Mm.
What else? So even that, there are things we are learning. And I always say millennials, we have no excuses. We have vast wealth of knowledge out there that we can look and say, where am I going wrong? What is it that I'm feeling? How can I fix it? We have no excuses. Our parents have excuses. They say, our time, we didn't have these things, but you guys have these things now. You need to do better. And they're right. We do need to do better. We are the ones that change the trajectory of our future as African Muslim families and make them better for the next generation of Gen Z. So it is very important that we learn. So it's not because we're egoistic or we are this or what is wrong with us. It is because we've never had it. It is a new concept.
We just don't know. Yeah.
Everyone is winging it. Everyone is just winging it however way. And they're finding it odd and weird because it's not normal. But we need to normalize it and we need to make it in a healthy way. So the more forums there are out there, the more people will learn to change.
But is there, like, from what you said, I understand that there's no one size fits all when it comes to co-parenting. But is there any generic, nugget that you could just drop to say, look, if you want to co-parent, these are one or two things that you just need to kind of have at the back of your mind. Like, I know every situation and every circumstance will be different, but What do you think is a general thing that should be at the back of the mind of someone who's just divorced and wants to co-parent with their ex-spouse?
The first thing is always to put the children first over your own feelings. Always the children first. And always imagine if I was that child. You know, as adults, we tend to forget we were children once and how we viewed the world and how we saw things and how we wanted to be treated by our parents. Now put yourself in your children's shoes and look at it in their eyes and see how they might feel in the situation you're putting them. They need to be very selfless in this aspect. And if the other partner is not a willing partner, try and make the best out of that situation where it is positive for your children. If their father isn't the one saying, doesn't want to cooperate, is saying, I don't want to show up, don't tell the kids, your father is a bum, he doesn't want to show up, he doesn't know. Just tell them, you know what, I think daddy needs to work out on a few issues. Let's make dua for him. But I know he loves you. I mean, he's said 100 times he loves you. Your dad used to look at you like this, your dad used to love you like that. Say the positive things. It's not that you're giving him more points or whatnot. It is for the well-being of your children's mental health. Kids, when they're young, they look up to their parents as heroes. They reach a stage when they're 16, 13, 14, 15. They'll know who their dads are, but then they will be emotionally built to be able to deal with that later. You're building them for that. It's not because their father will automatically, just will always be the hero. Unless he steps up at a certain point when now their minds have been built and they have matured enough to be able to understand what is going on and comprehend. This is the kind of parent I have. It's the kind of parent that was there and stepped up. So parents say, oh, why should I put a positive spin on it for him? It's not for him. Very emotionally healthy children, lie to them however way you need to lie to them so that they can, be emotionally well. We can feed them the best, healthiest of food. We can give them the best of gifts. But if they're not emotionally well, we're doing zero work. So put your kids first. Always, when you want to do something, bite that tongue of yours and be like, but I'm doing this for my kids. So putting your kids first is very important. And being respectful no matter what. Always maintain your respect. They say pigs love rolling in the mud, and you shouldn't roll with them. They like it.
Yeah, there's plenty of pigs then. So last question, Sister Nusrat. Healing and moving forward. See, those time when you were in your mood that you couldn't even do your salah, you couldn't really converse with Allah. How did you get back up? Did the feeling just kind of subsided and then you were able to pick yourself back up? Or what are the things you do? Is there any strategies or techniques you could advise anyone who is currently going through that phase now where they're just not happy and questioning Allah as to why does it have to happen to me? I did my best. I sacrificed. I did everything I could. And then nothing else is making sense to them. How do you think they can get back on their feet?
One I did, I I looked for so many affirmations and I stuck them up on my cupboard, like that, stuck them on. Very positive affirmations of myself and of my journey, and that I'm going to pick myself up. I'm going to do that. So each time I woke up, that's what I was looking at. And Quran. I wasn't praying at all, but I always had the Quran on. I until today, like I love Surah Taha. I love Ar-Rahman. Um, I love listening to the Ruqya. I love it. I love the whole. And I love also listening to Surah Yasin. And so those were always on repeat. I wasn't praying. I wasn't doing anything, but I wanted something tethering me to my iman. I didn't want to completely let go. So I always listened to the Quran. And whenever I went to a place for a gathering or whatever, and somebody asked me, am I praying? I said, I'm not. And they would say, oh, you're in your period. I say, no, I'm just not praying. They would say, oh, why? This, and I said, make dua. Make dua. I never liked that. I say, oh, no, I'm in my period. It's so easy for women to say, I'm not praying in my period. No, I'm not praying. My iman is very low. I'm not praying. And I would say, pray for me. And my mom would scold me. And I'd say, Ma, just pray for me. Ma, make dua for me. Ma, make dua. And then slowly, I found myself now instead of just listening to the Quran, I was picking and reading it. I was listening it to the car. I was listening to it everywhere. And I was so angry, not with God. For me, I wasn't really angry with God. I was just angry with myself. And then I was taking it out a lot on the kids as well, because I was frustrated the turnout. This is man now new for 15 years. And so it was just, it's like, this is what people don't get. It's like a part of you, a limb there has been torn off. You know, whether marriage ends good or bad, you still have to go through the grieving process of losing part of yourself, part of someone, a part of a life that you lived, that you aspired to be forever, that you dreamed that would never. So you have to mourn it. You have to go through the grieving process like as if somebody died, because that part died, that journey died, and you have to grieve it. Don't rush to covering those emotions. Go through it, process them. And in that process, just pray to Allah. Like I kept saying, don't forsake me, don't forsake me, don't forsake me. Now, and every time that pang came of what happened in the middle of the night, I'll say, Alhamdulillah. I would cry. I say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And that is something I learned from my parents. My dad always insisted me to listen to read that last paragraph of Surah Al-Baqarah that starts with Amana Rasul.
آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله. Yeah.
So I always read that when I woke up from my from my sleep, just like that, and I couldn't sleep. Of course, you get that. You can't sleep. All the thoughts come back and everything. And my mom kept saying, say Alhamdulillah. No matter what, say Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And I always kept saying that. I say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, Alhamdulillah. And I say that all the time. And then I found myself, I'm praying Fajr, then I'm not praying and praying Asr, Fajr, Asr. Then I'm praying Fajr, Asr, Isha. And then I'm praying all 5 at some point.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Yeah. So then I just found myself now back on track. But I never told people, don't tell me that I'm not praying. Don't tell me this. I don't want to be told. I know that I'm not. Or I lied about it. No. I always felt like you need as much du'as as you can to bring you back. And you never know whose dua might bring you back. You never know whose dua might be the answer to whatever it is that you're going through, and it might be answered. So always, I'm never ashamed when my iman is low. I want all the help that I can get to bring it back up. And I think we tend to hide behind that. Most of us do not want to show vulnerability to others. But when I look at you, I know you're as vulnerable as me. I know you have your own whatever ills that is going on as much as I am. You know, it's life.
Yeah, it's life.
To all of us.
Yeah, it's life. 100%. It's life. And, what I hear you say loud and clear there is that it's normal. It's human to feel whatever way you feel when life kind of throw you the curveballs or Allah test you, if you have to put it in another word. But then having the good structure, being amongst the believers, having good support structure around you will eventually help you if you let them help you. And then being vulnerable and not hiding and then pretending as if everything is all right and then refusing the help. Because sometimes for a cure to actually happen, you have to accept the fact that you have some sort of ailment before you can, accept any cure from people. But in a case whereby we are masquerading or, pretending like everything is all right, people kind of let you be and then they think everything is all right as well. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Nusrat. This is so much valuable to me personally, because before we were talking on TikTok, I told you this is something that's really very passionate for me in terms of, my community and the future of my community. And what we have discussed today is just a beginning of the conversation, because this is the bane of the society. We're losing young minds, we're losing families, we're losing, not that they're dead, but they're given less and less concern about the deen. And then I'm looking at 20 years time where people like us might just be looking forward to retirement or something like that. I'm thinking, who's going to be on the field here, holding on the flag of Islam? If the family, the what's supposed to be the source of the community is kind of disintegrating. So this is one of the intention behind the effort like this, and may Allah accept it from us and activate about that, and may Allah make it useful to the people wherever they find this message, inshallah. And I want to especially thank you for accepting to do this. And I know it's close to your bedtime, and I'm the one keeping you here. So may Allah, bless you for that. So one last thing I want to say, Sister Nusrat, is there anything you would love to say that I haven't asked that you would want whoever that's going to be listening to this podcast at any stage to know or to hear or to learn about? Is there anything you want to say as some sort of farewell message?
Normalize premarital counseling, like make it a priority to avoid expectations and assumptions. Go for that premarital counseling. Let it all out. Ask all the questions. Don't feel shy, especially for the women. Just say, let it all out. Have your facts out there. And normalize counseling within the marriages as well. Make it regular. Instead of just make dating regular in marriages, but also make dates for therapy or for counseling regular as well within those marriages. It should never end. Even when you're happy, just go for that therapy session, and connect and see where you are at. Always go back to the drawing board. We're evolving human beings. You're not the same when you get married, and each time as humans you evolve and you change. So always go back to the drawing board and reinforce your marriage continuously.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. And Sister Nusrat offers online sessions and in-person sessions. So you can find out on TikTok. You can always reach Sister Nusrat online on TikTok platform, and inshallah that will be showing on the screen as we speak, inshallah. May Allah make it easy. So we want to again thank everyone who spent the time to watch these, and to also remember to click on the subscribe button and share these information with whoever you think will benefit from it. And may Allah bless you and accept it from all of us as an act of ibadah. Inshallah, until next time, keep your belief in Allah, stay with Allah. Life will test you, Allah will test you, but to those who stand by Allah, you will always have cause to give thanks to Allah and smile at the end. May Allah make it easy. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.